yourself, so.
Where would you like me to go?
Right up here, I think would be great.
Can't get through the chairs.
Push things around.
So, good evening, I'm Bill Gibney. I am currently the commissioner for Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission for District 7, which is all of northeastern Pennsylvania. It's a D8 county area from Wyoming to Carbon and Luzerne to Wayne and Pike. And I was invited here. I'm kind of a local boy. Well, I am a local boy. I grew up in Waymart and went to Western Wayne High School. And I was involved in Boy Scouts over there. And after college, I came back and I taught. First, I taught biology, honors biology, and regular biology at Holmesdale for about 9 years, and then I became the physics teacher. Yeah. So I was also while I was there, I've had some of you. I know I had Al's kids, and during that time, right after college, I became a deputy game protector. And I worked here in Wayne County, and I also did law enforcement for the Fish and Boat Commission at the time. And Al and I have had some experiences along the Delaware here, going back to those times. And I also, during that time, became a park ranger at the Toby Hannah Gouldsboro Big Pocono Complex. So I did that during the summers. I taught at Holmesdale and coached boys and girls tennis, cross country. I was a ski club advisor. I was a department chairman. I was a National Honor Society advisor. So I was there most of the day. So I did that for 34 years and retired and became aware of the opening for the position as the commissioner for northeastern Pennsylvania. That's a position appointed to the board by the governor. And I applied for that and surprisingly was nominated. And because it only takes a couple hours a month. That's not true. It sometimes takes only a couple hours a day. So I've been doing that since 2019. I did my first term. I was appointed in July of 2019. And you have a 4-year term. So I'll tell you a little bit about the workings of the Fish and Boat Commission. So in Pennsylvania, we're unique in that there are 2 separate agencies for fishing and boating and also for games. There's the Pennsylvania Game Commission and the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission. There was a 10-member board of commissioners for the Fish and Boat Commission. There are 8 district commissioners and 2 at-large voting commissioners. So the Fish and Boat Commission operates much like a school board in a sense. And so the Board of Commissioners sets the policy, and we are actually the controlling body for the agency and have a staff directed by our executive director, Tim Schaefer. Now, Tim and I are going to tag team tonight a little bit about what's going on. I'm going to be taking all the compliments. Tim will be taking the complaints. Then I was nominated to be the president last year and assumed the position of presidency last July, and also was reappointed for another 4-year term by the governor. And that has to be approved by the Senate. So it was approved by the Senate. So I'm starting my second 4-year term. You can have as many as 3 4-year terms as a commissioner in Pennsylvania. So presently there's 10 of us. We do get along very well. We have a very, very active schedule. Most of the commissioners are out in the field visiting our hatcheries. So as you probably know, like this is a big time of the year for us. Saturday is the opening of trout season. So the agency has been stocking almost 4 million trout around the state. And then we also have activities that Tim is going to discuss with you about our involvement in the Delaware River watershed, the stuff that we do here. So I'll let Tim talk about that stuff, but I thought I'd ask you if you had any questions about what it is I do or how I go about it. Yeah, not that we have to take it later. Yes, sir.
Relate
for the Pennsylvania Boat Commission to what would be in New York State? What would be your counterpart in New York State?
I don't know in New York State if you have a volunteer board. I don't think you
Okay.
do. So all of the commissioners are volunteers.
He's shaking his head over there, so.
I don't think we have an equivalent.
No, you don't have anything. And-
No,
and-
and I can talk about how we work with you,
Okay.
Fish and Wildlife there.
Yeah.
With the DEC.
And you have a comprehensive agency that covers everything. So in Pennsylvania, we have Fish and Boat, we have game, we have DCNR, covers parks and forests, and we have DEP that deals with the water. So it's rather complicated in that breakup. There's not anything equivalent.
This might be a really, 101 question, but did you say 4 billion trout stock?
No, 4 million.
Million, well,
But billion, we'd like to do billions a lot.
Oh, yeah, well, a million's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
So how does that happen?
How does it happen?
Yeah.
So we have a collection of hatcheries throughout the state that not only raise trout, but they also raise walleye and muskie and panfish and bass, and so like you think of it, and walleye, for instance, walleye don't reproduce naturally in Pennsylvania. So we stock walleye throughout muskellunge, we stock those. We're gonna repopulate lakes with panfish and black bass, like it's gonna happen in White Oak Pond and Lower Woods Pond in Wayne County. So we have, how many hatcheries are dedicated to trout?
So we have 8 trout hatcheries, we have, depending on how you count, 13 state fish hatcheries, 8 are dedicated to trout. And those are the places that we raise 3.2 million trout that we stock ourselves, and then to get to that 4 million, we have a network of about 160 volunteer sportsmen's clubs, our cooperative nurseries, they're called, they stock another million. And what we provide eggs and fingerlings, we actually have a team of 3, essentially circuit riders, and their job are to serve those co-ops, those 160 co-ops in the state, with fish diagnostics, fish health issues with their equipment, and that's what they do all day, every day.
The fish that we get in this area primarily come from Centercom. The hatcheries out there. We even have one hatchery dedicated just raising mussels.
Yeah, that's something new that we just, that's in the Lake Erie, just below Lake Erie, it's in the Ohio River watershed, we've heard of French Creek.
Yeah.
I think it sort of rivals this place in beauty, but it's frequently known as one of the most ecological rich spots in the world, really. And, where we're brushing water mussels there now and raising tens of thousands of them a year, so it's really exciting.
But it's not just trout. So we are concerned with, we have specialists in crayfish, specialized types of crayfish, reptiles, snakes, so forth. If it's in the water, if it's got scales and full blooded, it's us. If it's furry and cuddly, it's game commission.
And I said,
Do you have snake hatcheries?
Pardon, no
Do you
snake
have-
hatcheries.
Snake hatcheries.
And I did say to Lori at the beginning, we'll probably book at some point, because we talked about this stuff all night. But while we're on the hatchery topic, we supplement recreational fisheries what it would normally exist. So we don't, areas of the upper Delaware River with really vibrant, wild trout, brown, rainbow trout populations, smallmouth bass populations, in some places, very few, we do have reproducing walleye, but where you've got a reproducing fishery, a lot of state park lakes, and we'll help you get them going. But we supplement where it wouldn't be others, and that's this notion that it's stock trout versus wild trout couldn't be further from the truth. We're so lucky because we have both.
How big are the trout in the stock?
Average about 11 inches, 0.58 pounds. That's what we shoot for. And yeah, and they're really quality product. I'll put a plug in if anybody wants to join us stocking tomorrow on the Dyeberry Creek. Knock on wood, it's not gonna, it could keep raining. But we'll be stocking there tomorrow, and all of our stocking schedules are online. So fishandboat.com, we have a great mobile app, Fishboat, you can download that. And they're updated in real time. Like, for example, we needed to change a couple as a result of the flooding we've had. Those have been updated already.
Tomorrow it's at 1 o'clock at Lower Woods Pond, if you're interested in joining us.
And
And another thing that's a big concern for us too is invasive species. To protect the spread of invasive disease and organisms throughout the state. That's been a recent accomplishment of ours too, so. We deal with what's alive in the water. Except for dogs.
Why is it that there isn't a naturally why don't the walleye naturally spawn in the state of Pennsylvania?
Sedimentation.
Sedimentation, and does that hold true in Upper Delaware as well? Do you know?
I'm gonna have to find out the answer to that, so I don't think so, but anywhere else in the state, if you were to put a white paper dinner plate on the bottom of the creek, it would cover over its silt in a short time, so that would smother the eggs.
It's a, I mean, the places that you don't have naturally reproducing, it's primarily a function of temperature and habitat. That's really mainly what it is. Like Lake Erie has unbelievable, we gotta try not to catch a limit of walleye in Lake Erie right now.
Yeah.
And we do have certain bodies of water where they reproduce just as the habitat conditions are right. Muskie's another good example where you just don't have it in most places, but some cases the habitat lines up for it.
Right, because I remember a year, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I read an article about the Fish and Boat Commission putting like something like 3 million walleye fry in the Delaware somewhere for like maybe 100 miles south of here or something.
And we may have, we do tens of millions, if you can believe it, of walleye fry. They come out, some out of Pleasant Mount, but also mainly out of our Limestone State Fish Hatchery over in Crawford County. And with both the muskie and the walleye program, we've gotten a lot more selective and strategic with where we do that. It used to be, okay, we'll just give it a shot and see what it takes. But now we've really lined up where we think we're gonna get some good growth and survivability, maybe some natural reproduction. But Daryl Pierce is, some of you may know Daryl. Literally, I'm bringing an open invitation from Daryl to join in the field. And he would be the one to talk with about walleye or any other fish species in the Upper Delaware. I'll get Lori a copy of our field schedule that you can share with all the members. And I mean, if anybody who's here would like to get out with us for a night electro fishing for American shad or for trout, or you name it, we'd love to have you out and show you what we do.
A night with Daryl is a graduate course.
And who knows Daryl, that'd be great. You don't, he's a giant of a person, but he's the most gentle, soothing soul to talk to. He's really good guy.
We've had some questions coming up about the maintenance of river accesses for the ones that Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission has jurisdiction over. How do you maintain those to make sure that they're free from debris and get cleaned up and ready for the recreational season?
Yeah, so we have, I should have checked how many we have on the Upper Delaware, but so there's some accesses that we own and maintain. We'll talk a little bit about the grant program you guys may be aware of that we have, we provide funding out for others. But our maintenance staff, we have a maintenance staff based on Sweet Valley, which is over at Loser. Yeah. Maintenance staff that covers all of Northeast Pennsylvania, and they're the ones that do regular maintenance of our boat ramps. We've been trying to make a really conscious effort in recent years to improve the access in places where you've got cracked up concrete or ramps that aren't in good shape. So those maintenance groups come out from Sweet Valley office. And I would say if you ever have places that need work that we may or not aware of or not able to attend them, that we perhaps should be, let us know. I'm gonna share my contact information with Lori, and I'll make sure that you've got information for our Northeast region office. Always looking for suggestions about things we could do.
Well, I think it's been that our board was complimentary about the condition of the Pennsylvania accesses. That's what I've been hearing, is how do you do it? Because we're impressed by it.
Well, that is music to my ears. So Bill, I'll take that call.
Yeah. But also, to expand on that, both like the game commission, the fish commission is not funded by tax dollars. We're funded by the sale of fishing licenses primarily, and boat and registration fees. So it's not, that's not public funds. Well, it is public funds, but it's not the general fund that's coming from.
And we take it seriously. I mean, we made a real commitment. Bill's been on board since 2019, not just a year after I started in this position. And we are making a really concerted effort to invest angler and voter dollars on their behalf and making sure that we're fully staffed up with maintenance staff, making sure that we're investing in those access areas, making sure even something as simple as the trucks that are staffed right, to make sure that they're is in as good a shape and operable as it can be. So I will pass that compliment along. And I will, but you know, if you ever do see something that we could be doing better, please let us know. But it's just a lot of hard work and frankly, a priority that we place on it.
And also to expand opportunities for anglers and boaters to get to our resources. So that's been a big focus for the time that I've been with the agency.
I'm glad Bill mentioned that. You may have heard, you know, what really it started with a phone call from Bill, Frank Genslinger and Mon Rogers, who you guys may know. Spearheaded the new water trail in the Lappalachian. I mean, it's awesome. I mean, it's phenomenal. What's you know been done there with those new access points. We applied for and received $1 million grant through the Delaware River Conservation Fund. And I should also point out, I'm actually on the steering committee for the Delaware River Conservation Collaborative. So that big chunk of money, in fact, I was on a call for it this morning, that comes through the Fish and Wildlife Service and out through the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. If this body ever has priorities that you think ought to be a part of that grant suite of priorities for the year, again, Lori's got my information now, pass them through to me and I'd be happy to be an advocate for it there. But so we received some extra funding to work in the Delaware, but a big part of, Bill mentioned the boat registration fees, the fishing license revenue, motorboat fuel tax revenue comes to us as well. And we got the law changed a couple of years ago that if you're from Pennsylvania, you remember the gas tax, it's called Act 89, 2012 or 2015 when that got increased. When that happened, most of the motorboat fuel tax revenue was going to PennDOT for roads and bridges, because the farms, voters are paying for what they are done. So we have a couple different sources that we're really committed to improving boat access. So if there are spots in Pennsylvania on the upper Delaware or tributaries where you think, man, and Bill's mentioned a couple, you know, we could really use another access here, let us know. And we could come out, our staff can come out ahead of time, perhaps build a relationship with the municipality that's there, a conservancy maybe that has the property. We would love to get more boating access on the ground, and we have the dollars to help with planning, acquisition, and then design and construction of new accesses. And they could be as elaborate as you want, you know, for power boats or just for power boats as well.
We also receive sort of reimbursement from the government on excise taxes on fishing equipment and things like kayaks. So there is some money, also money that comes back in, but primarily we're funded by Portland.
That excise tax dollar, I'm glad Bill brought that up. You hear about a lot on the game side, like it's called North American Model of Fish and Wildlife Conservation. And back at the turn of the century, you did not have fish and wildlife populations that were depleted or over harvest or pollution. And state agencies worked with the companies to have them voluntarily put an excise tax on firearm, ammunition, boats, fishing tackle, then ultimately, so the user, that cost is built into the cost of a fishing rod, the 10% excise tax. So Bill's friend Pete Britt, you guys may know over at Thomas Spinning Lures over in Holly, you know, like lure costs, you know, $10. If you know you make it $11, the consumer sees that $11, that dollar gets paid by the manufacturer, goes back to the Fish and Wildlife Service, and then those dollars get allocated out to the states primarily based on the number of licenses we sell. Again, user pays, user benefits, and I say it all the time, we can't look an angler in the eye and say we're using your money wisely, we shouldn't be doing it, right? I mean, along the road, I'm packing my lunch, I'm staying at his house tonight in the guest room. I'm not serious, that's true, we really should do that.
Yeah, it doesn't really cost me that much a year to be a commissioner.
Yeah.
Only slightly more than when I was a game captain.
I think, I heard, are you planning or contemplating any different or newer accesses on the Delaware at all?
Well, we could, we would love, yeah,
I'm just curious.
we are.
Nothing in the works.
We don't have anything in the works, so maybe other agencies might, we don't. But if you hear about something that we could be a partner in, let us know. Another thing with that funding, and I'll say, one of the things that we do frequently, we will work with partners to help to facilitate their application. So if a municipality here or someone is contemplating something, heck, even if you're in you know, New York and you're contemplating something, we've got, you know, direct access into those federal grant makers to, I think, have some influence. I think, you had a question first?
No.
Okay.
I mean, this is just just throwing it out there, but on our the lower section of the upper Delaware River, basically from Lackawaxen, which you guys have a PFBC access there. From there, I think the next PFBC access is Milford Beach, I'm pretty sure, which is really far.
Okay.
And the same thing on the New York side, there's really not a whole lot of accesses from Lackawaxen all the way to Sparrow Bush. That's one spot which we've talked about a lot in a lot of our committees and things where the access area between that is very far. And most canoers, if you're not going to a private launch, sometimes they're like, oh, now I have 15 more miles to go and
Yeah,
it's
right.
blowing upstream.
You're not
That kind of
gonna,
deal. So I'm just throwing it out that, and I know the Delaware State Forest is a huge tract of public land right along the Delaware. It's not easy to put an access in there. I know what it looks like. It's super steep and there's all kinds of stuff, but you know, there was talk when they put the Pondetti Bridge in, are they gonna be able to swing an access in there on the New York or PA side? Didn't really happen. And then just looking forward, maybe sometime down the road, there might be some options.
We're all
area.
in, and then, so we have, one of the things that we've done in the last couple of years still, and I've both been on board. You know, with the fishing boat commission and run a bureau boat. What do you mean? We did bureau boat, so we have got now staff that are dedicated on the boating side, dedicated on boating access. If you'd like, I could have those staff come to one of these meetings, just get out in the field. You mentioned the state forest. The relationship between the resource agencies has never been stronger. Cindy Dunn and I were texting and emailing back and forth about the challenges of opening day in state forests. You know, Brian Bergens, who's the game commission director, chimes in. I mean, it is like Cindy even said, like brother and sister these days, like cannot overemphasize how strong the relationship is between the agencies. So if there is a place on state forest, or if there's a place on state game, like we just worked with the game commission to open up a new access for some of the, game commission is like the most phenomenal partner right now in terms of land management. So if there are public agencies in addition to us that you think we could have a conversation with, I think Bill's mentioned there's always Susquehanna that the Nature Conservancy. Bill,
the upper Delaware, the Delaware Nature Conservancy.
was there, you mentioned a Nature Conservancy property?
Yeah, up here, on River Road, yeah, so that's pretty down, that's just starting, so. The problem is the access to the road up to it, the Nature Conservancy, upstream of Calvin.
It's up above like
Yeah,
Long Eddy somewhere.
yes, you're right, yeah,
That's what I
but
meant.
the word is washed out, so we have to coordinate with the county first.
Very rural. Very rural, dead end out there.
Yeah,
So
so,
another thing that we do is we work with, if any that there's ever, you know, dirt and gravel roads, go back in there, the dirt and gravel roads task force, so there's money that flows through county conservation districts in Pennsylvania. We actually have a vote and a seat on all the county districts that administer those funding, so that could be an option as well. I see the time is already flying by, so I'm gonna try to.
and we have also partnered with PennDOT and various, bridge projects, so that you might have a good opportunity there, so.
We actually have two staff that are funded by PennDOT, and all road and bridge projects that impact bridges, obviously, but things that impact water, we review, and we actually make recommendations for new accesses to be built. So lots of opportunities there.
One access we had identified that's bad in need of putting a new concrete sectional ramps. It's the Damascus access. That one's really been beaten up by the elements that it's falling apart. It's a lot of exposed rebar there, and it's kind of a safety issue at this point.
And I'll show my ignorance, is that one of our accesses?
It is.
Yeah, it is, right on the bridge.
I think I actually spoke with the maintenance crew there last year and they said it's on the list, which, you know, that's a generic answer, but.
You know,
but it
I will say,
But it very well could be, I don't know.
if it's on the list, they're not blowing smoke. And
Yeah,
so
it would very
yeah, so, but I'll emphasize the fact that this, you know, this body brought it up as a priority and, you know, priorities can be elevated. I did want to make sure we got to it, so we could talk all night. I'd like to really shift gears, just know we're all in on access. Bill mentioned invasive species, and he really helped to lead the board on this. And Don will love this. So up until this time last year, Pennsylvania was the only state in the Northeast, one of the few states in the country where there was no paper trail or disease requirement for stocking fish. So you think about chickens with avian influenza, deer with chronic wasting disease, pigs with brucellosis, cows, bovine, whatever diseases there are. You could literally just buy a load of fish and stock them in the waters of the Commonwealth without letting us know, without any disease requirements. So we went through a really rigorous and at times painful, but it worked well, process to get regulations that are, I should have given more context with Bill does. So the Board of Commissioners, they set and pass the regulations for the agency. So staff will come up with whether it's, biological reasons for changing something on the fishery side, or safety on the boating side. But then the board ultimately votes on those regulations. But collaboratively between the board and our staff, and then with the aquaculture industry and lots of partners, including some of the like the Blooming Grove Club was not part of here. They and some of the other large clubs were a big part of this and really a big help. The board passed a regulation last summer that Pennsylvania now has a requirement, notice of stocking requirement, where you have to let us know where you're stocking fish, and they need to be disease free. That might sound like of course it is, but it was a monumental effort to get this done. So, if any of you are involved with groups who do stock fish for events, if they could please pass this along, it's going to be a continual educational effort for us. If even a presentation about that would be helpful to this body, if you guys want to help post something like that.
Could you send that, Greg?
Yeah.
To the list, and we can circulate.
You bet, yeah, for notice of stocking, we definitely will. But in addition to that, anybody has to let us know, we've processed about, we're up to like 1,200 so far that we've ever had or processed, things that we never knew about. It's gonna allow our fisheries managers to do a better job as if we find, where are these walleye coming from, like in the upper Delaware, where there's not spawning habitat, or if heaven forbid, the disease that the parasite we're concerned about right now, something called gill lice, which affects the gills of rainbow trout and brook trout. We found that originated from a commercial aquaculture facility. Now first of all, we were required that it has to be gill lice free when they're stocked, but it also gives us a paper trail for where it will come from. And when the next disease comes down the road, which it's going to happen, we've got now a mechanism. Another thing that was in that regulation that is also notable is there is now, for aquatic invasive species, we're all probably familiar with hydrilla, zebra mussels, there is now a requirement that you have to remove your plug when you move from one water body to another. You get no visible water in your boat, you can have visible vegetation on a motor. And so we really, it was a generationally significant update to those regulations. And I have to say, this interplay of the way the board is working with staff it works. It's really healthy. We've got phenomenal biologists like Daryl that are on staff that say, hey, here's what we need. Board of Commissioners, you guys set the rules and you work collaboratively to get that. So,
and it's evolutionary too. So, it's a work in progress still. But the amount of data is amazing.
Yeah.
With this being a bi-state river, I know there are a lot of joint fisheries
Yeah.
papers that New York and Pennsylvania both
Yeah.
do, but an example would be like the eel harvesting for a Pennsylvania resident who harvests eels. It's still managed by the New York State DEC. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe Doug has something to say about that, because you're one of those people.
Pennsylvania doesn't have an eel weir license. So you gotta get a non-resident New York license.
So you guys actually have your eel weir licenses? Okay. Is that working well? Do you think that's something we should have? Is it
Well, I mean, back in the 80s, I had a Pennsylvania license. It was called an eel shoot license, and their rules were really hard compared to New York State's. So it's worth getting a non-resident New York State license just for the rules of.
Yeah, this is my 5+ years, the first that come up. I mean, the goal here would be to make sure that the states are in alignment, you're conserving the species well. No.
Pennsylvania put a limit of 50.
Mhm.
That was why no one applied for any more Pennsylvania Fish and Game Commission viewers, because they had a limit of 50, and it doesn't make much sense to go through all that rigmarole for 50.
I mean, a season limit of 50. A season limit of 50 or a daily?
Even if,
Daily ones.
yeah,
Yeah, I'll look into that. Thanks for raising it. You mentioned about the joint management. I did check with our fishery staff, so we've been working on a joint trout management plan in New York State for the tailwaters. That's just about ready for prime time. You know, certainly we'll share with this body numbers when it's ready, but I did check. It's still being drafted among the two states, but this focus on, you know, regulatory consistency between the two states.
Yeah, it's similar with striped bass too. We had to adapt our regulations to coordinate with New York State just recently.
Yeah, with striped bass, and I know, we and New York State both have seats on the Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission, sort of cheated with that bio for me. I'm actually the commissioner for Pennsylvania, but our Fisheries Bureau Director is the one who represents me on that, but just know that both states are represented on that interstate body for anadromous and catadromous fish. Some fancy word for your eels, they're catadromous, but the anadromous fish like shad, American shad, and striped bass that spend part of their time in the river. Yes, sir.
could you leave your emails with Lori?
Yeah.
Because there's a couple things, questions we can follow up.
And I'm gonna give you guys my cell phone number. And my cell phone number is 717. 717,
Yep.
919.
Yep.
1826. 24/7, 365 with this job, which I love. I mean, I'll put as much out as I can, which is the greatest thing ever. It's Tim Schaefer, Schaefer with all the letters. So SCH8, everything with the umlaut, I say. SCH8EFFER. And really, and text me, call me if I can't answer the question like it is. Touch with the right people. And so, I think that part of my job is just putting the right people together. I did want to, and again, fix the hook.
I'm gonna leave these two, so. Go ahead.
But before we end, though, I do want to mention, and we're serious about this. We are desperately trying to diversify our staff, notably our waterways conservation. So our waterways conservation officers who are, you know, the officers on the water, we have no black officers. I mean, like, give me a break. Say what? We recently, we make an effort to try to correct that. But if you have audiences with whom you work, who you think might want to be a waterways conservation officer, please let us know. We're also finding, regardless of the diversity of the officers, people just aren't getting the impression like who they used to. That say that the federal, BCNR, Cindy Knights and Brian talk about Gagos, park rangers, people aren't doing this anymore. What they do, they jump ship to work for the municipal police department, make $30,000 more.
The one question I was gonna ask, in the region.
Might have something to do with pay, huh?
It does.
Yeah,
Terrible.
surprise.
I'm with you.
State don't want to pay.
I'm with you, man. And listen,
We're working hard on that.
Agency, if you don't set the grades, and I believe me, I am nailing the governor's office as much as I can. Don't please slow down. That's, but I'm talking to them as much as I can, trying to get the salaries.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that, so I'm with the state force in the region.
Yeah.
For the Commonwealth on the council, but yeah, it's hard to keep the WCOs, the conservation officers in the region. You know, cadet class comes out, they get placed, but then there's so many vacancies statewide.
It's hard to even attract
Yeah.
from 17 to 16,000 hours. So that's changed, but we are working.
So that's a big priority. And sorry to take a lot of time, but.
Equally, the Board of Commissioners is not well diversified, so if you're, you know, that's a 4-year term, and actually, if you want to spot right now, you can let me know.
We do, for our voting advisory board, we have, there's a couple vacancies on that, keep your eyes peeled for announcements there.
Well, we thank you both. Oh, we got a question, Don. You got one.
How much of your budget is based on fishing license sales and what's been the trend?
Sure, so it's really 60-70% of that is driven on the fishing side. And we're still a little bit ahead of where we were pre-COVID. I mean, that's your barometer for everybody, whether it's state park visitation or hunting and fishing license sales, we're about 3% ahead there, about 860,000 acres.
But by a license.
Yeah.
Please.
We thank you. And
Yeah.
we are honored to present you with the official Delaware Council, where, fine.
I will put it on right now.